Hello and welcome to a lesson and an exercise on calculating heating degree days. So in this video, I'm going to ask you to use a calculator, and I'm also going to ask you to pause the video if you need to pause the video to work the problem. Those of you who are better at mental math might just look at the problem and solve it in your head, and that's fine too. So, what are heating degree days and what do we use them for? Well, heating degree days are a characterization of the climate. Okay, we're going to try to describe the climate in numbers. And heating degree days are directly related to how much money we pay annually to heat our homes and our commercial buildings. So, they're a useful number. We can estimate our annual energy cost using heating degree days, and that's what makes them useful. And so how do we get heating degree days? Well, we find out the high temperature for the day, the low temperature for the day. We take those two numbers, we add them together, we divide by 2, which creates an average, and we subtract that average from 65 degrees, which is the balance point. Okay, on day 1, you might have, say, 20 heating degree days. Day 2 may be 30 heating degree days. Day 4 may be 60 heating degree days. You add all those up for all the days of the winter, and you get a number like 8,000 heating degree days, which is what we have here in Helena, Montana. Up in Fairbanks, Alaska, it's 14,000 heating degree days. They're much colder. St. Louis would be about 5,000 heating degree days. Miami might only have 1,500 heating degree days. You get the idea. Let's work a couple of examples. So we need some data, as I said. We have day 1 here and day 2 here. And on day 1, we have a high of 28 and a low of 12. Reasonably cold day. On day 2, we have a high of 8 and a low of -20. The reason why I chose this day is that we have a minus sign right here. In case that causes you any consternation, we will show you how to deal with that. So we have a formula here. Heating degree days equals 65, which is the balance point. What is a balance point? Well, a balance point is the outdoor temperature at which no heating is needed. And so most buildings don't need heat when the outdoor temperature is 65 degrees. That's why we stop there. And some buildings, don't need heat until it's 50 degrees, but that's kind of off the topic. So heating degree days equals 65 minus the average temperature for that particular day, which is the high temperature plus the low temperature divided by 2, just like you'd take any other average. Okay, first example. Heating degree days equals 65 minus the high, which is 28, plus the low, which is 12. Okay? You can do this in your head. Let's just do it in our heads rather than pause the video. Okay? We've got 28 plus 12 is 40. 40 divided by 2 is 20. And 65 minus 20 is 45, and what have we just measured? What have we just calculated? Heating degree days, okay? All right, we may need to pause and see if we can get through this problem, this next problem, which is a little bit more complicated. Heating degree days on this day 2, is 65 minus 8 plus a minus 20. Okay, we also have a minus sign here, just to warn you. I'd like you to pause the video, either solve this in your head or use a calculator, and then come back and I'll tell you the answer. All right, thank you for working that problem. Let's see if you got the right answer. Okay, I'm going to do this in my head. 8 plus a minus 20 is a minus 12, right? And because we've got a negative 20 and we've got a positive 8. Adding these two together gives you a minus 12. Minus 12 divided by 2 is minus 6. Okay, now 65 minus a minus 6. That's actually 65 plus 6, which is 71 heating degree days. Okay, if you're somewhat confused by that, let's look at this number line. Okay, so the first example, this is a number line. We've got negative 20 down here. We've got 65 up here. And then we've got all the other numbers. We got 0 degrees, negative 20, 20, 40, 60. So the first one is we have 12 plus 28. We add them together, that's 40. Divide by 2, that's 20. You can see the 20 is right in the middle. 20 is just right in the middle there. Okay, the next one is not so easy. We have 8 degrees and a negative 20. So that's a negative 12 divided by 2 is a negative 6. See right here, that negative 6 is halfway between the 8 and the 20. It's the average temperature for that day is a negative 6. Okay? All right, well, thank you for helping me solve those problems. And what I'd like you to do is go on to day 3, day 4, and day 5. So when I step out of the way, pause the video after I get done describing to you what I want you to do. What I want you to do is we have day 3, which has a high temperature of 50 and a low temperature of 35. Day 4 has a high temperature of 21, a low temperature of negative 6. And day 5, high temperature 32, low temperature 5 degrees. Please tell me what those 3 heating degree day totals are for those days. And we'll ask you some questions about that.